get started in just a second. If you're not on the CX on the Rocks online community, you can join that today. Just go to cxontherocks.com, click on this Join Now button, and that will let you register for this complimentary membership. It gives you access to the online forum as well as all the events like the one that we're doing today. So it's cxontherocks.com. Click on this Join Now button. It's a really easy form to fill out, and then you get access to the online community forum and all the events. So we still got a lot of people rolling in, but we got a big lot to cover today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Again, for those just joining, Sean unfortunately had some car trouble, so I'm flying solo today, but that's okay. We've got a lot of great content around journey mapping that I know is going to help you unlock this mysterious thing. So today we're talking about journey mapping mastery and how leading CX teams are driving business value with customer insights. Also, I am getting over a sinus infection. I still got a bit of a cough, so I'm sucking on a cough drop. Hopefully that's not too annoying, or at least less annoying than me coughing throughout the presentation. So anyway, back to journey mapping mastery, how leading CX teams drive business value with customer insights. And that word business value, I'm not sure if everybody completely knows what that is or not. When I say business value or business outcomes, we're talking about things that are good for the business. Yes, they're good for customers and the customer experience, but they also help our businesses grow profitably. Things like increasing customer acquisition, acquiring more customers, or reducing the cost to acquire customers, which is a very expensive part of business. Another business outcome, a popular one for journey mapping, is improving customer retention, or we'll also say reducing customer churn, encouraging customers to stay longer, renew their subscriptions, buy more. Another one that I've been doing a lot of work in lately in the business to consumer space is increasing share of wallet. For those businesses in the middle, they may be dealers, distributors, how do we get them to order more and increase the size of their orders and order less from our competitors? And then the fourth common place for business value is reducing the cost to serve customers without reducing the quality of service. So providing that same or better service experience at a lower cost. And those are the ways that CX teams are driving business value with journey mapping. So in the next 60 minutes, you'll learn the exact journey mapping process that I've used to deliver a 9 times return on investment. And I'll tell you that story as we get going. But I want to ask you, what would that be like if you could walk into your CFO's office and confidently say, for every dollar you let me spend, I will give you 9 back? Would that be a game-changing conversation? That is the value of these deep customer insights that we get from customer journey mapping. And I'll show you the exact journey mapping process that we use to deliver that value. So who am I? I'm Dave Seaton. I am the CEO and principal consultant at Seaton CX. I've been I had a 21-year corporate career, and then coming out of the pandemic, I quit my job and starting this consulting company. I've got the credential, I've won the award, all that stuff. Sometimes that matters to people, sometimes it doesn't. And then there are a few of the companies that I have had the pleasure of working with. So before we get into it, I do have to offer a bit of a disclaimer. You will not master customer journey mapping in 60 minutes. I've been doing this over 60 years, and I'm going to show you the best process that I've figured out over 6 years of doing this. But you won't leave this webinar as a customer journey mapping master. Now, when I started journey mapping because I just wanted to save my team and my job. It was 2019. My boss had created a new transformation department, and our mission was to transform the service experience post go live for our B2B SaaS company. He offered me the position to lead this transformation team. I was very excited. Started in January. 3 months later, my boss quit, and they never replaced him. And so I was in a situation where, without his influence and authority, none of the other departments that we were supposed to be transforming really wanted to transform. And so without that leader there driving their participation, our calendars started looking really light. People were canceling meetings, stopping projects, not engaging. And I remember waking up every morning wondering if today was the day that I was going to lose my job and my team of dear people that I respected would lose their jobs too. And so we did a Hail Mary. We cooked up this big project, this big idea, and I went on what felt like the campaign trail. I met with every single vice president in every department: customer success, marketing, service and support, implementation, talking to them about this project, getting their feedback, getting their input. I met with each of them at least twice. And then I went to the president of our company and said, this is what we want to do. This is the outcome we think it will provide. And all these people are on board. Can I have the investment to go do this? And he said, yeah, go do it. And so we went and did it. We did about 6 months figuring it out, doing the research. This was pre-pandemic, so we actually flew all over the country to interview hospital finance leaders in their hospitals or their business offices. And then we began to act on those changes. And so over the next 18 months, we won that 2020 North American Customer Centricity Award for our customer insight. We reduced the customer churn from our journey by 66%. So that was about $1 million for this company of annual recurring revenue that went back to the top line because customers weren't churning as much. And personally, I loved the work. I was excited and I was hungry to see other industries. I had been in the same company for 15 years. We were now coming out of the pandemic. It was June 2021, and I wanted to go do this over and over and over again. And so now I've done journey mapping in clinical healthcare. I was on the financial side before, but had an opportunity to do it, excuse me, for doctor journeys, patient journeys, how those two interact when doctors are referring from a general practitioner to a specialist, and what does the patient journey look like. I've worked in insurance, property and causality insurance. Nonprofit was fascinating. I had a chance to interview a gentleman who has shared the stage with 3 presidents of the United States. Telecom, business to consumer telecom, energy, early childhood education, an industry that just really captured my heart with how much they love on children and babies, and currently working with an IT and cybersecurity company, kind of coming full circle in that B2B software space. So it's been an incredible journey. I've learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, but built a repeatable system that I'm going to show you today to create these compelling customer journey maps. So I believe that journey mapping is the foundation for creating lasting value in customer experience. And yes, you can create value without journey mapping. That's absolutely possible. But doesn't it sometimes feel a little bit like whack-a-mole when you get this complaint and so you run an escalation, or you get this feedback on NPS and some executive wants you to chase that down and figure it out? Journey mapping gives you the foundation for what I call thinking like a journey surgeon. So a surgeon doesn't just do random medical procedures. They know exactly what the problem is. They do the most minimally invasive procedure that they need to alleviate the problem. And when we think like a journey surgeon, when we have that customer journey laid out before us and we know precisely each place where we need to do an operation to improve the customer experience, that's where we're providing real value to our organizations. But there's three secrets to doing that I've discovered along the way. The first secret is that journey mapping is easy when you have a process. Now, I've talked to hundreds of CX practitioners about journey mapping, and I've heard a lot of comments like, one person told me, I downloaded a template from the internet. I filled in all the boxes, and I had zero confidence in what I had created. And there's no way I was going to take this to my peers and ask them to make changes in their organization based on this. Another person told me, it seems like it should be simple, but I tried to do it and it turned out to be overwhelmingly complex. And in fact, when I started journey mapping 6+ years ago, it felt like, like Harry Potter and the dark arts. Like you had to join this secret society and, get blessed by the authors of 3 different books. And then you would unlock the forbidden treasure and get, a template or something. And so overdoing this, I created the DARMA method. And it's kind of based in my background in Six Sigma and structured problem solving. And that's what we needed for journey mapping, was a 5-step process that you can follow every time to create a customer journey map. It's going to inspire action, drive change, and provide value back to the organization. So here it is. It's called DARMA. That's an acronym for the 5 steps. Step 1. Step 1 is to define the opportunity. Define that business opportunity that you're going to pursue by doing this journey map. Is this around growing customers, retaining customers, getting a bigger share of wallet, reducing the cost to serve? What's the reason that we're going to make this investment? And what's the value to the business? After we've defined the opportunity, and that definition we're going to use throughout the project, as it keeps us in scope. So we're not mapping the universe, right? We have a defined, this is in scope, this is out of scope. So it's going to be our guide to keep the project on track. After that, we're going to analyze the current state. We're going to discover everything the company already knows or thinks that they know about customers and this experience. We're going to look at the survey data, but we're also going to look at customer behavior data. What are customers doing? Are they logging in? Are they opening their emails? Are they going to the store? We're going to look at our operational performance, right? In those touch points, how are we performing according to our service levels and our service standards? And we're also going to look at financial data. I'm working with a client right now in that B to B to C space. We're looking at the middle B, our dealers. What's their average order size? How many orders do they do a year? Understanding that data so that we know what improvement looks like. At the end of the analyze phase, when we've collected all this qualitative and quantitative data, we're going to develop the journey hypothesis. And that's what we think that the journey is like. And that's going to help us as we go into step 3, which is to research the customer experience. We'll use that journey hypothesis to develop the research so that we get the deepest insights from our qualitative and quantitative research in the customer experience. And then, and only then, after we've completed the customer research, do we map the customer journey. No templates, no filling in boxes. We are simply here illustrating, visualizing what we have learned in the first 3 steps of the journey mapping process. But we can't stop there, because at this point, we've just made a pretty map. And I like to say, if your customer journey map isn't driving change, it's just an art project. And so the 5th step, the final step of DARMA, is to act on the insights and actually change and improve the customer journey. And that's where you provide that return on investment to the company. But there's something else. And sometimes I call it step 5.5. Sometimes I've called it the hidden step. But it's really not a step at all. It's something that weaves through all 5 steps, and that's change management. And if you want action at the end of your journey map, you have to start with the change management at the beginning and at every step along the way. So when we're defining the problem, we're engaging with stakeholders to understand how this might impact their goals and objectives. Analyzing the current state, again, we're interviewing stakeholders and getting their perceptions on the customer journey. So they feel like they're contributing. Like this journey map isn't something that's happening over there, right? They're part of it. They're contributing their ideas. They're getting to influence the project. In research, I love to have our stakeholders observe the in-depth interviews with customers. And then they feel like part of it. And then it's not me or the CX leader telling them what customers said. They're hearing it firsthand with their own ears. When we get to the mapping stage and we're analyzing that research, I like to have those stakeholders play back what they heard as an observer. So now they've not only heard it with their own ears, now they're saying it with their own mouths, what they heard from customers. And if we do this well, when we get to the end action step, they're ready to go. They're already bought in. I see Julie is raising her hand. Julie, go ahead, unmute yourself. What's your question?
Hey, hi Dave. This is Parul from CIBC. So Julie is my senior, I would say. So I'm attending on her behalf. The thing is, can you just go back to step 4 and 3 about the journey hypothesis, what that means when we say creating a journey hypothesis or research? How does that fit into the whole plan?
Absolutely. The journey hypothesis is a rough cut journey map that shows what the company thinks that the journey is. And we use that hypothesis to develop the research instruments for the research phase. So, for example, if we think that there is a phase in the journey of speccing an order, then we'll develop a discussion guide where we will, as we interview customers, we'll go deep into what they actually do. What are they doing when they spec an order? What are they thinking when they spec an order? How are they feeling when they spec an order? And so then when we go to step 4 in the map, we're able to very clearly identify what customers are doing, thinking, and feeling as they go through these steps to accomplish their goal. So that's the first secret, is that journey mapping is actually easy when you have a process. It's a lot of work, for sure. Um, but all of that confusion and mysticism is gone when you have a process. The second secret is that you can research and map the journey in 20 weeks or less. Now, I say 16 to 20 weeks for a big, complex end-to-end journey. But I want to tell you a story about a micro journey that we mapped in just 6 weeks. This is Brian Dunbar. He shared this on my LinkedIn profile. He brought me in for a journey mapping exercise with a cross-functional team from the US and the UK. He said 2.5 days of hands-on work to produce current state, future state, and a path to get there. And then actions were prioritized with a who, what, and when. So the workshop was 2.5 days. What, Brian doesn't tell you is what we did leading up to the workshop. So we had a week of defining, this was a very small micro journey, but defining the opportunity, analyzing the current state, and then I encouraged the team to conduct the research prior to the workshop. Now they had a researcher in their organization that they could get access to, somebody who does this professionally, who is able to recruit, conduct, and analyze at least 10 customer interviews prior to this 2.5 day workshop. And we played back those video clips, the key moments, the critical interactions before we went and mapped the journey. So this was not internal thinking. It's not some executive's opinion about what the journey is. This company actually conducted real interviews with real customers and used that data to map the journey. But what's really incredible is what this team did with the journey map after it was created in the action phase. Within 30 days after, they built trust with these dealers by obliterating the number one pain point that dealers had heard it over and over in every interview. Dealers were complaining about this requirement that cost them time, it cost them money, and they're saying, I'm an expert, you should trust me. So boom, obliterated the pain point. Isn't that awesome that they did that? And it wasn't just a decision. They had to go create new standard operating procedures, train their service delivery team to follow the new procedures, monitor it to make sure that it was working. But within 30 days, boom, number one pain point was gone. Secondly, for this journey, they operationalized a phone channel. Now they had phone support, general customer support line and sales and all that. But for this journey, they were requiring customers to send an email. And, if you imagine a dealer is on site there with the end consumer, they have this problem. Now the dealer can pick up the phone and they can get an answer right there in front of the end customer. So they operationalize this new service channel. Still within 30 days. Next, they automated the transfer of top tier dealers to their diamond line. Now they already had this software with their CRM and their phone system. They just hadn't set it up. They hadn't configured it. So they configured this to when one of their top tier dealers called, they were automatically transferred to the diamond line, and agents got a pop-up knowing who was on the other end of the call before they answered it. Isn't that incredible? Like they had that opportunity there. They had just never, they'd never taken the 30 days to go set that up. This last one, this is really going to blow your mind. The last thing they did is they reprioritized the work schedule in their factories to give these problem orders a greater priority. Doesn't that blow your mind? Like I get like there's a world over here with sales and customer service and contact centers and orders and processing. But to me, it seems like over here there's a factory where people are making things on assembly lines and they have no idea who they're making it or which order they should make it in. They're just looking at the list and making stuff. And to bring those two worlds together so that the work schedule at the production facility is now prioritizing this micro journey was just incredible. And they did all this within 30 days after our 6-week journey mapping exercise, which means they completed all of this in Q1 of 2025. And they are only just getting started. So time, you can do this incredibly quickly if you follow the DARMA process and get to the point where you're making improvements. The third secret is you can get buy-in in any organization. It is more of a science than an art, and there are specific things we've built into the DARMA process to make this happen. I'll share, Allison is on this call. Allison wrote this on my LinkedIn. Said, I was very effectively converted the naysayers who confused journey mapping with process mapping, brought all the executives along and had them talking about the importance of the effort in no time. Doubtful that we'd be where we are today, all of our executives having a deep understanding of our customers' key experiences. So what Allison doesn't say is that she really deserves the credit for this. She was incredibly instrumental in getting buy-in in her organization. She got the buy-in to even bring me in the first place. And then she did the meetings before the meetings after the meeting, the hallway conversations, the executive presentations, everything else that goes into driving the change in her organization. But I wanted to tell you the story about a particularly difficult stakeholder that Allison and I encountered. This person, in our very first interaction, came into the meeting guns blazing. I don't know why we're doing this. We have 3 other initiatives in this company already focused on process mapping. This is duplicative. This is a waste of effort. We should just stop this right now. And we had the meeting. We didn't win him over in the first meeting or the second meeting. In fact, as we were presenting our hypothesis, our journey hypothesis to the executive leadership team, this guy voiced more concerns in that meeting in front of the president and all the executives. I can't believe we're just going to make huge changes based on, what one customer says, 30 customer interviews. That's not even statistically significant, and on and on and on. And the president finally, said, look, we're going to do this. We're going to do 30 customer interviews. If that's not enough, we'll do 30 more. If that's not enough, we'll do 30 more after that. And the project continued. But by the end of the project, when we got to the action phase, this stakeholder had become one of our biggest supporters because he was involved in the decision making, in the analysis. He or his team had observed interviews, had participated in the analysis, in the playback of what they learned. And at the end of the project, he was totally bought in and one of our biggest supporters. So those are the three secrets to effective customer journey mapping. It's easy when you follow a process. It doesn't take that much time when you're following the process, and you can get the buy-in in any organization. So, who feels a little bit like this guy right now? I told you you wouldn't be a master in a 60-minute webinar. We've talked about really analytical things like process mapping. We have talked about some touchy-feely things like influence and buy-in, some stuff in the middle around project management. So if you feel a little like you're drinking from a fire hose, that's okay. But let me ask you a question. Let me see if I can get this where I can see you all. I can see more of you now. Let me ask you a question. Raise your hand, nod in the chat. Would you be interested in a way to continue the conversation after this webinar? Yes. I got a direct message says yes, sure thing. All right. Well, I am just thrilled to announce Journey Mapping Basecamp. Now that's a picture from here in Colorado Springs. That's Pikes Peak in the background. This is my home. But if we were to take an expedition and try and climb Pikes Peak, we wouldn't just set out on a trail. We would start at base camp. And base camp is where you prepare, you plan, and you equip for the journey. And so I'm launching Journey Mapping Basecamp, which is going to be a 16-week group cohort where we're going to come together. We're going to go deep into DARMA, change management, and all the stuff to plan, prepare, and equip to map a customer journey in your organization. We'll have everything that you need to do this, to do it successfully, on time, in budget, and win over your stakeholders. So here's what's involved. There's the 16 weekly group sessions. These are live and interactive. We'll have live training. We'll have breakout rooms to practice the skills with the other members of the cohort. You're going to love the one where we do nonverbal communication skills. This is going to be really fun. I'll share all of the tips and tricks I use in customer interviews to make that person on the other end feel like I'm their new best friend. So they give me all the details about their experience. So we got the 16 weekly group sessions, live and interactive. That's a $4,799 value. I'm also going to add 2 private coaching sessions. That'll be one-on-one with me, where we can go deep into any need that you have, whether that's defining the problem, dealing with a particularly difficult stakeholder, how to actually visualize this journey from the research that you've done, whatever you need to be successful. I'm going to give you the complete DARMA toolkit. Now, I sell this to my consulting clients for $2,500. And as I was putting this together, I was thinking, I'm really undervaluing the 6 years of experimentation and experience that's gone into creating this. DARMA toolkit, my stakeholder discussion guide template, my customer interview discussion guide template with the top questions that I've tested with hundreds of customer interviews to get the best, the deepest insights. Project plans, PowerPoint templates, everything that I've assembled in my DARMA toolkit. And then, so that's with those 3 things, total value of $7,897. I'm also going to create the first credential digital certificate that you can share on your resume. You can share it on LinkedIn. This will be one of those digital credentials. I don't know what it's worth. I know it's worth something, but I don't know how to put a value on that credential that's going to show your credibility and your clout and your expertise in journey mapping. And hey, this is the summer. This cohort's going to go. It's going to start around the end of June and go over the summer. I want to prioritize your work-life balance. I'm taking a family vacation. You should take a family vacation. What I don't want is you telling the kids to be quiet in the back seat while you're trying to dial into some base camp thing while you're driving through the mountains. So miss one session, take your family vacation, prioritize your work-life balance, and we'll do a makeup. If two people miss the same session, we'll make it up together. If only one person misses a session, that's another one-on-one with me. And the last thing, we'll create a members only Teams channel. And this is where the cohort can collaborate together both during the 16-week base camp and for a year afterwards. And so I imagine that we'll be making connections. We'll have this private Teams channel where we can share ideas, get feedback from each other, and continue to interact and follow each other's stories of our journey maps. And so that was a total value of $8,792 plus that digital credential. I'm not going to charge you that. Before I tell you the price, I want to ask you a question. If all this did was equip you with a proven method for getting CX buy-in, would that be worth it? If all this did was empower you with a business case to justify your company's CX investment, would that be worth it? If all this did was sharpen your qualitative research skills, especially around those nonverbal communication tricks, would that be worth it? Or if all this did was give you that edge to land your next job, promotion, renegotiate your salary because you're now this much more valuable to the organization, would that be worth it? You tell me. So we got the 16 weekly group sessions, the 2 private coaching sessions, the undervalued DARMA toolkit, the certificate and digital credential, summer flexibility makeup session, members only team channel. I think that's worth $8,792. The special pricing for joining Basecamp 1, the first journey mapping Basecamp cohort, is $5,499. We'll invoice your company. A lot of people at the director, senior director, VP level should have easy access to that money. If you need approval, I'll help you draft an email to your boss. I'll even meet with your boss for 30 minutes and answer any questions that they have. There is and I'm not taking any money today. There is an application. You can see it at the bottom. SeatonCX.com/basecamp. Just dropped it in the chat. Submit your application. Now, if you're a consultant, don't bother. I'm not taking any consultants into Basecamp 1. This is only for practitioners. I'm not going to go train my competition and give them the complete DARMA toolkit. If you are a consultant and you would like to become a licensed DARMA service provider and officially licensed DARMA, I thank you, Kimberly, for that emoji there. So if you're a consultant, you'd like to officially license DARMA and you have a giant bag of money, talk to me afterwards and we will get you set up. But this is only for practitioners. Now, I know what has been happening in our industry. I know we have many CX friends between jobs, and so I'll do a special discount for 4 CX leaders who are between jobs, who may be paying for this out of their own pocket. $19.99 or 4 payments of $500. We can take credit cards, Apple Pay, GPay, bank draft, PayPal, Bitcoin, a check from your grandmother, whatever we need to do. Go ahead and submit your application. I did some research. I cannot call this a scholarship because if I call this a scholarship, then you have to report it as income on your taxes, and nobody wants to do that. So this is not a scholarship. This is a discount for our CX friends who are between jobs. So submit your application. If you're interested, this will just register your interest in joining Basecamp One. The first 12 qualified applicants will go in the first cohort. We're cutting it off after 12. Qualified simply means you're not a consultant and you work in the customer experience field and you have some level of authority or influence within your organization. If you're a frontline employee, this is probably not for you because you're going to have a really difficult time influencing upwards to make these kinds of investments. But if you're on a CX team, if you're a director, senior director, VP level, maybe even SVP level, this would be a good cohort for you. So I am going to stop talking now. We have made it to 10:45. We promised 15 minutes of Q&A. So let's open it up. Drop in the chat or unmute yourself or use the raise your hand. I'm going to take a sip of coffee before I start coughing again, and let me know what questions you have. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Dave. Dave, what do you think the biggest misconceptions are? You mentioned earlier about, people think, well, you just built this map. What are the big insights that they go, oh, damn, this is harder than I thought? Or, there's more power in this than I thought from this minor thing you're doing?
Yeah. So one of the biggest misconception, and I think it's the number one reason that half of journey mapping initiatives fail, is they don't do the customer research. And journey map means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Marketing leaders think of a journey map a little different from customer experience leaders. There's a video on YouTube that I love to hate on called "Create a Customer Journey Map in 1 hour." And the video advises you to just get your executives in a room for 1 hour and map out the customer journey because they already know everything about customers, right? No. We need to be talking to the front line who's interacting with customers every day. That's part of analyzing the current state. We need to talk to customers themselves. And that's where, to kind of circle back and answer your question, I think that's where the biggest aha moments come from, Chris, is hearing from customers. I remember a project years ago. This leader was making changes to the ticketing system. Okay, so ServiceNow, Salesforce, every organization has a customer request ticketing system. And this leader was under a ton of pressure from the executive team to reduce the backlog of tickets, improve the turnaround time. And the leader's looking out there and he's saying, oh my gosh, we have all these open tickets waiting on the customer to close them. So we're going to change the policy and we're going to say after 7 days, like we've done the work, we've checked it. After 7 days, if the customer hasn't responded, we're just going to close the case. And I said, whoa, hold on. Because we've interviewed customers and they shared with us something that may be interesting to you. They don't see this as a ticketing system. They see it as a project management tool because all their tickets are related and they're part of this bigger project that they're doing in their organization. And they use the system that you provided to manage their projects. And the leader's initial reaction was, whoa, whoa, whoa. They are using the system in a way that was never intended. We got to shut that down. And I said, hang on, hang on. You know, your product didn't meet a need. And so the customers figured out how to meet that need with something you gave them. This is a really interesting insight. And I challenged the leader to go figure out how they could change the system to both meet his professional goals as well as enable customers to manage these projects. And to his credit, he flipped and he and his team built an update to this ticketing system that not only allowed them to separate out these open tickets so they could report accurate metrics, but they also empowered customers with even more features to track their projects. And so it was a huge win-win both for the organization and reducing the cost to serve and the customers helping them accomplish their goal. And that insight came directly from the research.
Right, right. That whole external internal viewpoint, you know, if I were going to say, what is that? See it like the customer really sees it. And so often everyone seems to think they know what the customer sees. Anyway, thanks. Sorry, I took a lot of your time.
All good. All good. It was a great question. Looking in the chat, Kimberly says the interview is a key skill. Oh, you're so right, Kimberly. It is such a skill. If you've got 45 minutes with a complete stranger, such a skill to be able to get deep insights from that conversation. And hey, Matt's raising his hand. Go for it, Matt.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you mid-sentence though, Dave.
That's all good.
So I think I know the answer because we had a discussion about this on the podcast, but I'm going to ask it now too. So when you're building out the journey, you mentioned like you build insights into emotions and what's going on at peak moments in the journey. To what extent do you identify ways that the employees need to change their behavior? So that the way frontline employees are showing up is actually impacting the experience, as opposed to, you know, something digital in the experience or the physical environment or, you know, a logistics process where the employee behavior is the key thing to work on.
Yeah, we identify that from the customers. I did a project where it wasn't digital at all, right? The company is rolling trucks to customers' houses, and they're going into the customer's house to install a system. And we asked in the interview, we asked about that interaction, you know, how did you feel when that person showed up at your house? And we heard a variety of answers. Most people said, oh, I felt very comfortable. I saw the logo on the truck. The person greeted me by name. They had my info on a clipboard. They put on booties before they came into my house. And so there, we're identifying these customer behaviors and how they impact the feelings of the customers. We also heard that sometimes the company uses a third-party installer, and the third-party installer may show up with a van rented from Home Depot or a beat-up truck, and that's a different experience. One funny story is those third-party installers were then blasting a bunch of surveys at the customers. And the customers thought it was the parent company sending the survey. So when the parent company sent a survey, they got all this feedback that stop sending me surveys. I've already told you that. And the parent company's going, we've surveyed you once. And so from the journey map, they were able to track that down and identify that these subcontractors were engaging in a behavior that was actually degrading the customer experience.
Hey, Dave, you got a question from Lou in the chat.
Okay. Any tips to create awareness on frontline team to report important insights on their client interactions? Yes. This is it's about culture. It's about building the culture where the frontline team is empowered to speak up. And that is has a couple components. One, it's about creating that opportunity and that expectation to speak up. So that could be your daily team stand up or an end of shift meeting where you pull the team together. Hey, what stuck out to you? Was there anything that was completely odd? Was there any surprising moments where you were able to really delight a customer? So that's step one, is creating the forum and the expectation to share that. Step two is actually doing something with the feedback. So tracking it, recording it, measuring it. And then step three is then empowering the front line, giving them the license to, within certain parameters, take any action necessary to go turn around a customer experience. And so you're creating that feedback loop of sharing the insights, tracking what was done and how it impacted, and then empowering customers or employees again to do that. We got another one. Have to drop for another meeting. Thank you for a great session. Thanks for coming, Eric. It was really awesome to have you here. See a heart from Lou. We back when I was at that healthcare company before the transformation role, I was leading professional services and support department, and each team we would have a daily stand-up, and this was pre-pandemic, pre-remote work. We would gather around our daily stand-up board, and we would put stickies on there for ideas, improvements, things that we had done, and that allowed us to track everything. You can do that now digitally. All right, well, we're ending the end of our session. We got 5 minutes left. See people dropping off for other meetings. Again, incredible pleasure. Thanks for coming today. It was great to see you. Thank you for being here, Kimberly and others. If you missed it at the beginning, make sure that you take advantage of this complimentary CX on the Rocks membership here. Let's go to cxontherocks.com, click this Join Now button. There's an easy form that will give you access to the community forum. And this is new. We're starting it out. So the hardest, I've built several communities. The hardest step is getting the initial engagement. So if I could ask a favor, join the community and just go in the forum and post a welcome message. Say who you are, what you do, what you're hoping to get out of this community if you feel comfortable. Start a conversation or reply to someone else's message. Because as we build momentum in this community, that'll give you a reason to come back because you're getting value from it, you're networking, you're meeting people, you're engaging about these complicated CX topics. So I'm really excited about what Sean is building with this CX on the Rocks collective, cxontherocks.com/join. And I look forward to seeing you in the community and on future events.